Welcome to the Green Living Now podcast. I'm Amy Tedisco Hartshorn, your host, green living expert, retreat leader, and now podcast host. I am so excited that you are here for my first episode. Today, I'm going to share my vision, introduce myself and my story, and give you a taste of what's to come. So let's get started. I've had this vision since I was really little of a world where humans are living in harmony with nature, where we're not creating pollution and microplastics filling up our oceans, where farming is done the old school way, which we now call organic, versus the toxic synthetic way that's dominating the earth. We don't use more resources than we need. We put back more than we take. We have a respect for nature and we work together instead of plundering all of the resources and using them up quickly in the way that modern life seems to have become. I know that this is possible, and I am hoping that through this podcast and the work that I've been doing for over 30 years, that I can help all of us take steps to being more sustainable, less toxic, and more eco-friendly. The other piece for me is beyond choosing food and non-toxic household products and building products. Those are important, and those are things that we have control over. So that's why I like to focus on those. At the same time, I love embracing holistic health strategies to prevent illness. Some people don't even necessarily make the connection between their exposure to all kinds of toxic chemicals in their food or their household. They don't necessarily think about the fact that those migraines might be being caused by that exposure, or allergies or rashes or gut issues, all kinds of stuff. And in this society, in the US at least, typically people have experiences of symptoms and then they immediately run to the doctor and they say, what can you give me? And so typically, because doctors are trained mostly to prescribe pharmaceuticals or surgery or some other invasive type of procedure, they're not looking at what caused the problem. They're only looking at how to alleviate the symptoms. So I've really wanted to avoid that kind of model, because one of the things I've learned is that in the US, we spend so much money on healthcare, and yet we rank dead last as far as health outcomes, as far as all the wealthiest countries in the world. And that's just outrageous. And there's a lot of reasons why that is the case. But it's not just about personal health. It's about how to live as though we're all connected, because we really are, to live as one, to understand that every living being has as much of a right to be here as we do, and that we can live together in harmony without poisoning each other. This podcast is all about the intersection between our personal well-being and the health of the planet. And you'll hear people who have healed themselves from incredible illnesses and autoimmune diseases and brain traumas and have used green living and holistic strategies to do that. You'll also hear from experts like acupuncturists and herbalists and Chinese medicine experts or green architects, sustainable farmers like my husband Dave, and even a medical doctor who teaches how to eliminate anger, because anger is a toxin. Through all of these stories and ideas, my hope is that you will get actionable ideas and steps that you can take to make your life less toxic, more healthy, more eco-friendly, and holistic, so that we can all flourish together. So you might be thinking, why should you listen to me? Great question. I had a really unique childhood. I grew up in New York City, which is not one of the most clean and non-toxic places. However, my mom was really into Adele Davis, a popular nutritionist back in the day, and my stepfather was a chef, and he made all of our meals from scratch, which I continued to do my entire life up until the present. I had my first job when I was 16 at a health food store, and I learned about organic food and vitamins and supplements and a little bit about household products. I remember switching my shampoo at that time. And then the big pivotal moment, though, was actually when I was pregnant with my daughter, Diana. I was a regular shopper at health food stores, and I came upon this little paperback book called The Non-Toxic Baby. And I was shocked to learn that all of these toxic chemicals were legally allowed in our food and household products. Things like shampoo, including baby shampoo, or cleaning products and building products and the furniture and the paint and the carpets and pretty much everything that we bring into our home has the potential to have toxic synthetic chemicals. And this is not the way it's always been with humans. Back in before my grandparents' time, probably, things were made from all natural materials. We didn't have all this plastic. We didn't have such a toxic food supply. Everything that we grew was organic, but we didn't call it that back in the day. It was only because of the advent of all of this toxic synthetic petroleum-based fertilizers and pesticides to make farming much faster and easier for the farmer that we developed all of these toxics. And then all the manufacturing that has created the pollution that has polluted the air and the water and the soil. That's not been the way that it's always been for us. As soon as I learned that there were toxic chemicals in everyday household products, I became a research fanatic. I looked at everything I could read and learn to figure out what was in all of these different products. I went through everything in my house, tossed everything that was remotely toxic, and replaced it with what I thought was the safer, healthier alternative. And I say what I thought is because it was not that easy to figure out. Even back 30 years ago, there was greenwashing, which was basically the manufacturers have the ability to create a package that looks really earth friendly and has all the words that you want to see, like non-toxic and eco-friendly and all that stuff. But then you turn the package around, you read the ingredients, like I can't even pronounce half of this stuff. And so I was struggling to find which products actually were better. And I got pretty good at figuring out when I was being manipulated by the marketing. I started my business, Green Living Now, about 20 years ago and started educating people, going house to, house as a consultant, working with people to get rid of the junk in their homes and writing a newsletter and speaking wherever I got the opportunity. And then I got invited to be the technical editor of the Green Living for Dummies book, the 2008 version, which was so fun. And I also got hired by Seventh Generation to lead their nonprofit, the Household Toxins Institute. And I also amazingly got a call from one of Oprah's producers to be on her show. She was going to come visit me in Vermont and interview me about my non-toxic green lifestyle. Unfortunately, it didn't happen at the last minute, but that's okay. I have had some great media attention. I was featured on HGTV, and I've been on Vermont Public Radio and TV and WCAX and all kinds of different media outlets and people's podcasts because I love sharing information that helps other people. That is my mission. Every time I learn something that's helpful to me, I can't help but share it with others. So that's why this podcast is here. I want to share the information that I've learned and then interview all these amazing people that have more information that can help you live a much healthier, less toxic, and more holistic life. So what's in today's episode? Today, we're going to talk a little bit about food toxins and household toxins and why food is actually the first perfect place to start, because I really believe that our food is our medicine and we are what we eat. And there's so many things that we can avoid through what we eat. And then we'll talk about some simple steps that you can take. And then at the end, I'm going to give you a special offer that is just for podcast listeners about my new organic food blueprint course. Let's talk about the kitchen, which is typically considered the heart of the home. And that's where we prepare and store our food. First of all, when I am first working with people, the easiest thing I can tell you to do is look for the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 list. That is a list that's been created by the Environmental Working Group, EWG.org. And the Dirty Dozen are the fruits and vegetables that have the most pesticide residues on it. And that's things like strawberries and spinach. And then the Clean 15 are the ones that have much lower pesticide residues like avocados and pineapples. You want to prioritize your spending on the toxic stuff and get the certified organic produce for that, but you can save a little bit of money by buying the conventional avocados or pineapples. So go check that out. If you're a meat eater, And I have struggled with being a meat eater because of the idea of eating animals is a tricky one for me, but I tried to be a vegetarian and it didn't work out very well for me. So I'm very careful about what kind of meat that I eat. Most of the time it's grass-fed, grass-finished beef with some organic chicken and wild-caught fish. And when I can get pasture-raised pork, if it's organic, ideally, that's the best. But if you don't have those options, what can you do? One of the things that I've learned is that if you choose beef, even factory farm beef is better than factory farm chicken and pork. And the reason why is because beef, typically, even the ones grown on feedlots, are spending most of their time outdoors eating grass, and they're probably finished towards the end of their life on grains. However, chicken and pork, those poor things are cramped up in indoor facilities, eating mostly grain, and most of that is GMO these days. And they have a terrible life. And so they're going to have a lot more toxic stuff in them than the beef. So if you're eating out at a restaurant, and most places don't really have a lot of great options, or you're going to a friend's house and they haven't really caught the organic wave yet, choosing beef could be a better alternative. As far as cookware, definitely want to avoid Teflon or any of those no-stick type surfaces that have a plastic coating, because especially when those are heated to high temperatures or if they have scratches, that plastic coating can get into your food. What you can use instead would be stainless steel or glass. Iron cookware is not bad, but you have to be careful if you're a man or if you are a woman that no longer menstruates, you're not going to be shedding iron from your system. So you don't want to take in too much because it could get to be too much in your system. And then careful of plastic storage. Well, you want to avoid plastic wherever you can. So I no longer use plastic storage containers. I use glass. And they do have the plastic lids, but I don't let the food touch it. And if I have a really full container, I'll put a piece of wax paper in between. You can also store things in the refrigerator in glass and stainless steel metal bowls and get some really cool, there's a beeswax wrap that you can even make yourself. Oh, I don't use plastic wrap. And I don't even really use aluminum. Occasionally, if I have a container that needs aluminum, I put the wax paper in between that as well. And I also don't use the microwave. So if you do use a microwave, you want to make sure to not use any of the microwavable plastic. If you're going to use a microwave, use glass or ceramics, and don't eat any of that microwavable food. I put the word food in quotes. Even things like popcorn that you can make in the bag, those bags have plastic in the lining, as well as probably being genetically modified corn anyway. Okay, so avoid plastic, nonstick coated cookware, plastic wraps, and even cans are a concern. So you don't want to eat a lot of canned food because cans have a plastic lining, BPA, and even the BPA alternatives are not particularly good. You'd want to try to limit the amount of canned food that you're eating. Why is this an issue? Well, these chemicals are linked to thyroid issues, hormonal imbalances, liver damage, and even cancer. So good reason to avoid them. Then there's the whole topic of microplastics. The plastic particles can actually shed from our food storage and we're eating it. And I've heard estimates about how we eat the equivalent of possibly a credit card size worth of plastic a week at the worst. And then I've also heard that our brains contain like 0.5% plastic, which is just hard to imagine. And we know that the oceans are littered with plastic. It's all over the place. So everything that we can do to eliminate plastic, all the better. Because plastics also can accumulate in your body. Now I want to talk a little bit about drinking water and bathing water. What you drink is really important. If you live on a municipal water system, you can actually find out what's in your water by going back to the ewg.org website and go to their water database and put your zip code in, and you can find out what's in your water system. You'll be shocked, actually, when you find out all the stuff that's in your drinking water. Before I lived in Vermont and had really great well water, I used to use a wonderful company that is a mom and pop water filter company called Lakota Scientific. And they are fantastic and they can help you figure out what you need for your particular water issues. You can get a tap water filter, and also there's options for whole house filters, which is actually a great idea if you can afford it, because then you don't have to worry about what's coming out of your shower or your bath, because there are filters for those. But if you can get everything at the source, all the better. So I'll put the link in my show notes for Lakota. Now let's switch a little bit to household products and toxins. Some of the things to look out for. Cleaning products. What are some of the chemicals that you want to avoid? Ammonia, bleach, drain cleaners, and anything that has volatile organic compounds, which are in everything, including things like paints and carpets, etc. But ammonia is a lung and eye irritant. Bleach is very toxic to your skin and your lungs. And you don't want to mix bleach with anything else because that can make something even more toxic. Drain cleaners usually use lye, which can burn your skin. And the volatile organic compounds, the VOCs that I mentioned, you want to avoid those. And you can actually clean your home really simply. All I use is organic Castile soap and baking soda or Bon Ami. Bon Ami is really cheap. And it works great for soap scum. I clean most everything with that. And even glass, I just use a damp sponge, but you can make a 50-50, distilled white vinegar to water spray bottle and use that for your glass if you want to get fancy, but you don't even need that. Then for personal care products, some of the things that you want to avoid are parabens, which are used as preservatives that prevent the growth of bacteria and mold and yeast. And those can be found in everything like shampoos and conditioners, face creams, cosmetics, you name it. Some of the issues with parabens are that they're hormone disruptors, which means they can mimic estrogen and they can possibly lead to a hormone imbalance. They are also associated with cancer, particularly breast cancer, and they can cause skin irritation and sensitivity in some people. So what can you do? Well, look for certified organic products, or at the very least, paraben-free. Another chemical you want to avoid are phthalates, which is used to make fragrances last longer. It can be in everything: shampoos, body washes, nail polish, laundry detergent, basically anything that has a fragrance is likely to have phthalates in it. And those can be reproductive issues linked to infertility and developmental issues in children. It can also be a hormone disruptor or create allergic reactions. So you want to avoid products that say fragrance on the label or even unscented. That doesn't really mean anything. Those can actually have other chemicals that are masking your ability to smell the scent. So you want to choose fragrance-free versus unscented or free and clear. Free and clear usually just means that it may not have dyes or fragrances, but it might have other harsh chemicals. So fragrance-free have no added scent or masking agents. So I would go with that. As far as personal care items, like I said, look for certified organic ones, or you can use things like organic coconut oil or jojoba oil on your skin. And that's a lot less expensive too. And then deodorant, look for at least aluminum-free. My rule of thumb has typically been if you look at the label, you look at the ingredients, and you realize you can't even pronounce most of the stuff, I wouldn't even bother. You want to avoid as many toxic chemicals as you possibly can. So next area would be living room. What might you find in your living room? Well, furniture has formaldehyde, which is the same stuff that they use to embalm dead bodies. We don't want formaldehyde. There's flame retardants in our mattresses. There are all kinds of VOCs, volatile organic compounds, coming out of carpets, especially new ones. The old ones have a lot of stuff that we've tracked in on our feet, especially if you have pets. So if you can get rid of carpets, that's ideal. Go with solid wood floors, ceramic floors, or even cork floors. I had a beautiful cork floor in my old house in Vermont, and it was really wonderful. The other thing is you can choose low VOC or ideally no VOC paints and stains. That stuff is great because then you can actually paint a room and sleep in it or be in it the same day. You don't have to wait for it to air out. Basements and yards. Big thing to pay attention to is radon. Get a radon detector, see if you have it. A lot of times it's in places that have rocks underneath the house or even near your well. You also want to definitely stop using pesticides. Even things to get rid of insects in your home, you want to be very careful. If you have an ant infestation, for example, you can use those little ant traps that, they climb in and they can't get out, as long as you don't have pets and little kids around that could get into that stuff. In your yard outside, you definitely want to avoid pesticides like Roundup, which is in every hardware store. People don't realize how toxic that is. And it's definitely linked to cancer. In fact, there was finally a big lawsuit that was won by a groundskeeper. It was determined that his cancer came directly from all the Roundup that he was applying to that school grounds, and a school too, where kids are playing. If you're wanting to grow any of your own food, you certainly don't want to have pesticides in your yard, because then that's going to make your food toxic. And then as far as fertilizers, and we'll get into this a lot more in future episodes, but fertilizers, you don't want to use the toxic conventional products that are made from petroleum products. There are much safer things like compost or seaweed and fish emulsion or different kinds of manures that have been composted. So there's a lot of different options that you can use to grow your food without toxic chemicals. Okay, so here's some shocking statistics about Western medicine. We in the United States spend more money on healthcare than any other country. We spend $4.3 trillion a year, and yet we rank dead last as far as health outcomes compared to all the other wealthy countries. That is just shocking to me. And another shocking statistic is, guess what the third leading cause of death is in this country? Unfortunately, it's medical mistakes and bad drug reactions. We have 250,000 deaths a year from that. One of the problems is that doctors are not really trained in nutrition or prevention. They are mostly trained to prescribe pharmaceuticals or surgery or other invasive treatments. That's why it's so important to figure out how to eat well and how to make sure you limit your exposure to toxins everywhere that you can, because I don't want to have symptoms that I then go to the doctor and get a prescription drug, because then that gets me on the hamster wheel of you take one prescription drug and sometimes it has side effects and then you got to take something else to manage the side effects. I want to know what's causing the problem and I want to fix that. So I use medicinal herbs and mushrooms or homeopathy or Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, all of these ancient healthcare practices that have a lot of wonderful outcomes that people have been getting, including me. Then I'm also embracing some of the new stuff. There's all kinds of cool technologies that are coming out using sound vibration and light frequencies. I feel like that's the wave of the future. It's a great combination of the two, the ancient stuff that's been proven and the newer stuff that's really cutting edge. So that is a great way, I feel, of preventing problems before they start. And then if anything comes up, using those safer, more holistic choices to work with it. So here are a few actionable steps. As far as food, we talked about the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, but I also want to share that one of the ways that I've saved money is by buying things in bulk, especially when they're on sale. So when coffee's on sale, I buy a ton of that. And then organic coffee, that is. And then cooking from scratch. I mentioned that in the beginning, but I actually enjoy the process of cooking. And you actually save a lot of money. So for example, if you make your own organic chicken soup, it'll probably cost you $2 to $4 versus $4 to $6 for a canned version, which is not nearly as good. We've already talked about the issue of cans. I want to give you one do-it-yourself recipe that is such a crowd pleaser. It is an organic chocolate mousse, and it has no dairy. So you use a 1/4 cup of organic coconut milk, a 1/4 cup of organic cacao powder, a 1/4 cup of maple syrup, and then 2 ripe avocados and a 1/4 teaspoon of organic vanilla extract. You blend it all up. You will never believe that that has avocado and not heavy cream. And then you can refrigerate it and store it for a few days and serve it to your guests and see if they can guess. It is so good. As far as detoxing your home, one of the key areas that I think people should start with is your laundry, because you are exposed to what you wash your clothes in 24/7, between what you wear all day, but also your bed linens and pillowcases and comforters. As I mentioned earlier, you want to avoid the unscented or the free and clear and just go with fragrance free. But ideally, there are so many great choices of natural laundry detergent. I'm currently using Molly Suds powder, but I've also used Clean People, their little strips or their little pods. So those are really good. Oh, a really big one is air fresheners. Get rid of them. Forget about the plugins. You definitely don't want that unless it's a pure essential oil diffuser. But all of that stuff has just tons of toxic fragrances, that phthalates, and you can actually improve the smell in your home by opening the windows, even in the wintertime. I live in Vermont. I open the windows every day just to get some fresh air in, but you can also make potpourri from your garden flowers. You can get a pot of water with some orange peels and cinnamon sticks and let that simmer. You can get a diffuser with some pure essential oils. There's so many different options. All of these preventative strategies are not only helping you stay healthy and your family stay healthy, and even your pets, right? Because our pets are much more sensitive than we are. Their sense of smell is astronomically more intense than ours. So if we're using all this chemical stuff, they're breathing it too, just like children, babies. You will be doing everybody who lives in your home a service by making the switch to a greener, less toxic, more eco-friendly life. And then embracing the holistic health choices to also enhance your health. We can create a toxin-free, eco-friendly, healthier life for all of us. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thank you for joining me for the Green Living Now podcast. I hope you found the conversation inspiring and useful. And if you did, I would love it if you subscribed to my channel, left a review, and shared it with somebody that you think might be interested in green living. It helps us reach more people who want to live healthy and sustainable lives. For more tips, resources, and to get a free preview of one of my online green living courses, I have one on food, how to create a non-toxic home, and also holistic health. You can go to my website, greenlivingnow.com, and you'll find the link to check out the free preview. There's a whole bunch of free lessons that you can see. And I have a 7-day Green Living Kickstart Challenge. That is a free program that helps you take small, impactful steps to living a non-toxic, eco-friendly, and holistic life. And there'll be daily actions, pro tips, and there's an online community that you can join that will be there to support you along with me. And it's all at no cost. But you'll find that link on the website, greenlivingnow.com as well. Until next time, remember, together, our small steps create a ripple effect for the planet. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode.